What's going on, everybody? Um, I know the camera quality is bad, at least for now, but I don't have a camcorder yet. So yeah, we just kind of have to deal with this for now. But it's a lot better than the last computer I used because this is a MacBook. So that's just what we're gonna have to deal with for now. Make sure everything is good. I'm gonna change that thumbnail because it's absolutely terrible. But I think I have to wait till afterwards to do that. Catherine, what up? What up? So today, welcome. I was thinking about doing something like this for a minute, but I want to get it like set up to where I can get a Discord rolling and everything and like start doing debates because I'm really into doing that type of stuff. But for now, we're just gonna have a discussion with each other about everything that's been going on. If you hear background noise and if you hear me see me looking around, it's because my cat is in my room and she is terrorizing my curtains right now. I don't know. But yeah, as you can see by the title, we're going to be touching on a lot of issues. And one of the main let me raise this seat. One of the main issues that made me want to get on a live stream today where I'm just talking was I was on TikTok, right? And I know there's a very popular thing where like there's a bunch of conservatives there and they say stuff that seems like common sense even though it's not, and they're just completely waffling. But I seen a video in particular that really made me mad, like because of all the bad points that was made. Well, first of all, I'm going to show this on my phone. You guys don't follow me on TikTok already. Can you see that? Yep, it's coming in. Okay, yeah. If you don't follow me on TikTok already, it's JWilliamJ. It's in the description. We're just over 5,000 followers, so go ahead and do that if you want to. But so I'm minding my own business, and on my timeline pops up this. Hold on, let me find the video because we're gonna be debunking like everything that she says in this video. So I don't know if you'll be able to hear it or see it from there, but we'll just play it.
If I say all lives matter, I'm a racist. If I stand for my flag, I have to apologize for it. I'm not allowed to go to church, but I can burn churches to the ground. I'm not allowed to open my own business, but I can go loot and destroy other people's businesses. If I wear a badge, have a gun, and I'm dressed in blue, I'm a racist pig. But if I walk around destroying my city with bricks and masks, I'm considered a peaceful protester. I'm not allowed to peacefully protest the lockdown at my capital, but I can go destroy and graffiti my capital. I'm not allowed to go to the park to play t-ball with my family, but I can destroy the park. I'm not allowed to protect our historical monuments and history, but I can go tear them down and have them land on top of people. I'm not allowed to have an opinion on racial matters because I'm white, but if I don't have an opinion on it, I'm the reason why people are oppressed. I can go riot in the streets with the BLM, but if I go to a Trump rally, COVID-19 magically appears. Does anyone else not see the hypocrisy in all of this? I am done with your bullshit. If I say all...
Okay, so that was a lot of nonsense. I won't be doing any ASMR in this stream because it's not what the stream's about. But the nonsense that was just said there, we're gonna have to take this point by point and tear this to shreds because there was a lot of stupidity there, and it sounds like it's common sense and everything when it's really not. But let's start.
Lives matter, I'm a racist.
If I say all lives matter, I'm a racist. So, yeah. And that's not just coming from a place of, oh, he's a liberal. No. When you say all lives matter, you're not saying it because you sincerely mean all lives matter. You're saying it as a direct response to Black Lives Matter. That's the issue. So, in the Black Lives Matter movement, obviously that everyone knows that all lives matter. Black Lives Matter is not saying that Black lives matter more than anyone else or Black lives are the only one that matter. No one's ever saying that. They're just simply saying that Black lives matter. It basically means Black lives matter as well or too. So when you have people saying their life matters just as much as anyone else's, and then you say no, all lives matter, What you're saying is you are inherently discounting what they just said. So they just said their life matters. You said no, all lives matter. So you're not saying it out of some sincere, oh, I just love all people. You're saying it because you directly want to counteract what they're saying. And that is very racist. So I don't know why she's complaining about that there. I mean, obviously I know why, because they don't care about that type of stuff. But yeah. Moving on to the next point that she makes.
If I stand for my flag, I have to apologize for it.
Okay, so this is the whole like victim mentality mindset that comes along with being a conservative. If you stand for your flag, then you have to apologize for it. I think I speak for everybody on the left when I say that nobody has ever made you, or any conservative, apologize for standing for the national anthem or for standing for the flag or whatever. No one ever said that you have to apologize for that. What happens is people express their First Amendment right to burn the flag because they can do that. And then conservatives go on and they whine about the troops fought for that flag and everything. And then you guys play the victim mentality when you get backlash for it. It's not saying that you must apologize because you like the flag or you stand for the flag. It's literally only because when people burn the flag and you guys go on social media crying about how you need to protect and stand up for the troops and everything, then people give you backlash for that. You're always speaking facts. I love when you speak on certain topics. But thank you very much. I try my best to put this stuff out there. But yeah, when you, it's not because people are just like, oh, well, we don't like it. Like they try to paint the whole anti-American narrative thing, which is nonsense. But my issue is a lot of these people, the troops fought for that flag or whatever whenever they see, like, for example, Colin Kaepernick kneeling or someone burning the flag. Then they immediately jump to, oh, the troops, while they simultaneously support a president who sent troops to the border, threatened to send troops on his own people, and keep sending troops to the Middle East to die in pointless wars. So it's funny how you don't ignore that stuff that's actually taking a toll on the troops. It's only when you see a flag or a black person kneeling, that's when you get all emotional and upset about it. So that's very stupid to me. And it's just victim mentality. It's not based in anything. It's not based in any reality saying, oh, I have to apologize. Not a single person's ever made her apologize for standing for the flag. And if they did, they don't represent the movement. So I don't know.
I'm not allowed to go to church, but I can burn churches to the ground.
This one got me, right? Because I was like, at first I just seen it on face value. She says, I'm not allowed to go to church, but I'm allowed to burn churches to the ground. To my knowledge, I don't think anyone has burned a church during these riots. I can look it up afterwards, but I don't think anyone has burned a church. Now, with that being said, nobody has said she's not allowed to go to church. I don't know where she got that. Christianity is the dominant strain in America by far, the most dominant religion. So I don't know who is telling her she can and cannot go to church. 1 second, because my cat is playing with my charger cord, and I gotta. Oh my gosh, she being a weirdo. Okay. All right. So, like I was saying, nobody ever told her that she cannot go to church. Christianity, especially white Christian people, are the dominant like demographic in this country. So nobody's speaking out against going to church. 2 points, however. She says, but I can burn churches to the ground. 1, I know actually like 3 or 4 points. 1, I'm fairly confident that no church has been burned during these protests, and I'll look it up and I'll fully accept if I'm wrong on that. 2, it's funny you bring up churches in the one instance where maybe during a riot, a church might have been burned, when there is a long history of people with her ideology burning and bombing black churches in the South for the last 60 and about 100 years before that. So for you to bring up the one instance where maybe some Black Lives Matter rioters burned down a church while ignoring the clear link between your ideology and racist church bombings in the South is rich to me. It's rich to me. And then when you look at the fact that very recently you had, I think it was Dylan Roof, who shot up a bunch of black people in a church. So she's taking the one instance where maybe, and this is a strong maybe because I didn't hear anything about a church being burned down by Black Lives Matter, but she's taking the one instance where maybe a church was burned by some rioters and like, oh, I can't go to church, but I can burn one down. Okay, well, you can go to church. I don't even know if one was burned down. And people with your ideology have been notorious for burning down black churches, bombing black churches, and as of recently, shooting up black people in church. So it's very rich for you to talk about church in any way as if we're stopping you from going to church or something. Again, it takes like a millisecond of thinking to pick apart the victim mentality ideology, and it's very irritating. And that's why you don't see me getting worked up anymore. I noticed in a lot of my political videos before, I would get really worked up, and there's really no point in that, because when you've been experiencing all these like lies and stuff that they throw at you, it just kind of desensitizes you, and it makes it you better at making a coherent argument. So let's move on to the next one. So she's 0 for 2 or 0 for 3. I don't even know.
Not allowed to open my own business, but I can go loot and destroy other people's businesses.
I'm not allowed to open my own business, but I'm allowed to go loot and destroy other people's businesses. Once again, I find that there's a common theme with all these points that she's making. The first thing I always say, nobody told you that you couldn't do blank. Nobody told you that you had to apologize for standing for the flag. Nobody told you that you can't go open your own business. In fact, statistically speaking, since you are white, you have more of an easy time opening up your business due to the fact that on average, you will have more capital than a black person. You statistically might have an easier time opening a business than the very people that are protesting. So that point is just stupid in many ways. And no one said you're allowed to go burn it. People like her have been speaking out against every single little thing the rioters do since the beginning. One thing, the reason why I won't speak out against the rioters, however, is because condemning the rioters does nothing. And here's why. Say you have you have ABC, and that leads to Z. Say like you have black people over here, and for centuries upon centuries, ABC has been happening to black people, okay? Then it keeps on happening over and over. ABC keeps on happening. Then it culminates in riots over here. For you, as a Trump supporter or someone, to look over and be like, no, the riots, no, and condemn the riots so much, you know what you're doing is you're forgetting about ABC. So you can condemn and yell out, oh my gosh, about these riots all you want. ABC is still going to be there, which means that in all likelihood, another riot's going to happen. So people like me like to go, ABC is wrong. Here's why ABC is wrong. And if you get rid of ABC, it doesn't lead to riots. People like her like to go, riots bad. These people are criminals. These people are thugs, without trying to do anything about ABC. So you see why condemning the rioters does nothing? Because if you condemn the rioters without acknowledging the things that led to them rioting, then you're not fixing a problem. You're just trying to decry people because a lot of them have a racist belief in them that these people are just thugs and everything, and they just manifest that through, oh, look, they're doing bad things, now I can get to call them thugs. And a lot of the other times, they're just trying to decry people that don't agree with them, which doesn't make sense. What's up, Garb? So we're going to go back to this video. We're basically responding to this conservative woman on TikTok who made a bunch of nonsensical points. You can rewind or whatever in the stream if you want to hear me address the other ones. But I accidentally clicked off, so we're going to let it play back to where it was.
I say all lives matter, I'm a racist. If I stand for my flag, I have to apologize for it. I'm not allowed to go to church, but I can burn churches to the ground. I'm not allowed to open my own business, but I can go loot and destroy other people's businesses.
That's the point we just responded to. Now we're going to move on to the next one.
If I wear a badge, have a gun, and I'm dressed in blue, I'm a racist pig. But if I walk around destroying my city with bricks and masks, I'm considered a peaceful protester.
Okay. Two things. Okay, if you walk around with a gun and a badge and you're dressed in blue, you're a racist pig. Nobody said that. Now, while the dominant argument that is emerging is ACAB or all cops are bad, they're not saying that all cops are morally terrible and are racist pigs. What they mean by all cops are bad is that the policing system itself is incredibly broken. And what I mean by that, even though they're not saying, oh, the police system is broken, when they say all cops are bad, they're not saying that all cops want to just go out and kill black people and everything. They're saying those cops that do that and kill unarmed black people are bad. And then if you're a cop and you're enabling that process by not speaking out against these racist cops and getting them fired, then you're also part of the problem. That's the whole thing. Because in these police departments, your job can hinge on whether or not you speak out against some wrongdoing. So there's a monetary and like career incentive to not do what's right, even when you see wrong being done. You've seen that when they were killing George Floyd, and you saw the cop was on his neck. Okay, that's the perfect case study of what all cops are bad means. You have the cop on his neck, you have the other cops on his back, and then you look over and you see the dude just standing there doing nothing. Well, that means that guy's part of the problem. He's just as bad as the cop that is on his neck because you have the opportunity to do something right and you chose not to. That's what they mean. My computer's finna die, so I gotta plug it in real quick. Hold on. Matter of fact, let me go get this extension cord on. Let me read this chat. LMA, this TikTok girl is just making herself look. I swear, man. Looking for every single argument that she has thrown out there so far has been stupid. Trust me, it doesn't get better. It really doesn't get better. Let me get this extension cord up real quick. All right, I may or may not have to stop my cat from playing with the cord because she loves to do that for some reason. Okay, we're back up. So, yeah, that's what they mean by all cops are bad. The George Floyd case is a perfect study where you see the cops that are actually participating in his death and then the cops who are standing by doing nothing about it, which is why they say all cops are bad. It's not that all cops are morally terrible and they want to kill people. So ACAB doesn't literally mean all cops are like the same as Derek Chauvin or whatever the heck his name is who killed George Floyd. It just means that you have cops that are actively against and trying to kill people, which is why we see all these killings cropping up. And then you have the cops who might not be killing people and everything, but they're still enabling that process to happen by way of not doing anything about it and not speaking out against it. And you notice you see a lot of the cops that speak out against it on TikTok, and everyone's like, oh yeah, all cops aren't bad. Again, they're not saying that person has no core, that one or that person is terrible. Yeah, they spoke out against it. That's a good thing. But my thing is, what would they have done if it was their partner that did something wrong? We don't know. So that's what they're saying. This is a process that's enabled by people and committed by people. And when they say all cops are bad, they're referring to that whole system. And then she says, but if I go and destroy my city with a mask and stuff, then I'm considered a peaceful protester. Not only have they not been considered peaceful protesters, mainstream media has done a lot of work to distinguish between peaceful protesters and rioters and stuff. So people who are going around destroying stuff with masks would be referred to as rioters, not peaceful protesters. And second of all, again, not only did everyone not say that if you have a gun and a badge, you're a racist pig. Not everyone is rioting and everything. And if they are rioting, it's not because they're just violent and they want to. It's because this is a natural reaction to certain circumstances that we've had control over for the past few hundred years. And when you perpetuate this cycle of oppressing people and oppressing people, then it culminates in riots. For you to focus on the rioting and say those people are bad, those people are evil, while ignoring the problem that led to it, you're counterproductive. You're not helping. And a lot of these people don't want to help. Like Lil Baby said, every colored person ain't all whites, not racist, just by judging by the mind. Yeah. So Yeah, it's not like, oh, did my cat just run into my bed? What is wrong with you? It's not like all people are just like under this one like brush. There are varying cases in between, but not everyone has to do something for you to be able to point and be like, okay, the general trend is this. A lot of these same people say that, oh, black people commit more crime or whatever, and they don't look at the reasons why they do. But then when people say, okay, well, all cops are bad and everything, or there's a clear problem with the policing system, then they get all defensive, which is weird because you can't use the logic in one way and then ignore it in another way. But let's move on.
I'm not allowed to peacefully protest the lockdown at my capital, but I can go destroy and graffiti my capital. I'm not.
Okay, that one pissed me off. So, what she's referring to there, she said, I'm not able to peacefully protest my capital, but I'm able to destroy and graffiti my capital. So, again, I'm going to address the easy point first. No one said you're allowed to destroy and graffiti a capital. If you destroy and graffiti a Capitol building, you are going to go to jail. And I, again, am fairly confident that no Black Lives Matter person has graffitied and destroyed a Capitol since this stuff has started, because that's a federal crime. But the harder point to address, even though it's still really easy, is he said, I'm not able to peacefully protest my capital. What she's referring to is when heavily armed Trump supporters and white conservatives went to the Capitol in, I believe, Michigan, and they were protesting the stay-at-home order and were protesting for them to be able to get let out of quarantine. When I say armed, I mean these people were going to the Capitol with AR-15s and bulletproof vests. And you want to know what Trump said? Trump said, these are very nice people or whatever, but they're very angry. The governor needs to give a little bit and allow and lift the orders or whatever. Then when you saw black people protesting the murder of George Floyd and all these Black Lives Matter protesting, him and all his goons came out and said that they were thugs and everything. And then everyone got back, all the conservatives and stuff got backlash for that. Now she's here to flip the narrative and turn it into a victim mentality yet again, saying, oh, I can't peacefully protest my... Yes, it's peaceful protest in that nobody was shot. Nobody died, okay? No one was injured. But when you protest a Capitol with a heavily armed presence and everything, and then when people say, hey, you were able to go peacefully protest with your guns and everything, but black people were protesting without guns and everything, and they got called thugs. That's not everyone saying you can't peacefully protest now. People are saying, hey, we have a government that clearly favors one race over the other, when white people with weapons and everything can go to a Capitol and protest something as silly as being in quarantine, while black people are trying to protest for their lives and they're getting called thugs by those same people. That's what they're saying. They were flexing their Second Amendment. Yeah, they were conservatives that believe in that. Yeah, and I also believe in the Second Amendment. But my thing is, nobody is telling her that you cannot peacefully protest at your capital. Everyone is saying, hey, the fact that white people were able to have AR-15s and go out and protest at a government building and get called very nice people who are just upset by the president of the United States, but black people are out protesting peacefully without weapons, and they get called thugs and criminals from the president. That's the problem. Like, it's not that oh, they just like, yeah, it's okay to like believe in your Second Amendment and everything, but history shows that if black people were to do that same thing, chances are it would not have turned out in the way it did. So that no one is telling her that you cannot protest or peacefully protest. Everyone is saying, however, that it seems unfair that conservatives who are white get to go to the Capitol with loaded guns and nothing happens to them, and they get the benefit of the doubt. Trump says that they're just nice people who are upset. Why can't that same thing be granted for the black people protesting in Black Lives Matter? Where they are also nice people who are very upset, but one of them is called thugs, the other one is called nice people who are upset. And the defining characteristic is that one of them are black people, mostly liberal, and the other one are white people who are mostly conservative and Trump supporters. That's the distinction. So no one is impeding your right to go protest. Nobody wrote, oh, the First Amendment doesn't apply to Trump supporters. No, you can go protest, but the way in which the media and the president of the United States handles the protest, depending on who it is protesting, is what everyone's upset about. They had guns. They weren't doing anything with them. They were also protesting people who don't believe in them. Yeah, I get that. They have guns. They weren't doing anything. I'm not upset. Well, I'm kind of upset about them protesting in the fact that one of the major points, I know they were also protesting people who don't like support the Second Amendment or whatever, but one of the major things that made me upset is that they're protesting majorly to come out of quarantine, which is inherently going to lead to more people dying. And my mom's a nurse. She's been on the front line since this stuff started. And you're exacerbating the problem by holding a huge rally protest or whatever. None of them wearing masks. Like, you are, if one of you has coronavirus, now everyone does. Now you're overloading the system of whatever medical professionals work in your area. That's bad. But at the same time, it's not so much about the fact that they were protesting. It was so much about how conservatives and how the president handled it when they were protesting versus how Black Lives Matter was protesting. There's a clear distinction in how each group was treated. You have, for the conservatives, getting the benefit of the doubt, saying that they're just good people who are angry. Even though they didn't do anything with their guns. It was a peaceful protest. The Black people were also peacefully protesting. They didn't have guns, and they were immediately called thugs. That's the issue that everyone has. He wasn't talking about he was talking about the peaceful protesters too. And you saw that manifest in, I think, a day or two after, when there were peaceful protesters outside the White House, and he still had them tear gassed and everything. He didn't refer to looters exclusively in that tweet. He just said that they're thugs. And then, on top of that, then he proceeded to do the looting starts, the shooting starts, and everything. My problem is, even if he was referring to the rioters, you coming out and calling them thugs and they're criminals or whatever is not helping anything. You're the president of the United States. You have the power to try to fix the problems that led to the rioting. Instead, they go and they call them thugs and everything because not only are they racist, they don't care about Black issues and they don't want to fix anything that has to do with it. So it's very like I don't know how to describe it. It's very like nice for them to just sit up there and be like, oh, they're thugs, they're everything, and then feed meat to their base without acknowledging the issues and acknowledging that this has been happening forever and there needs to be something done to fix it. They don't do that. They just, oh, they're thugs. So even if he was exclusively referring to the rioters, you're the president of the United States and you have the ability to fix whatever led to the riots, but you chose not to because you don't want to. So you have no right to call these people thugs and everything because this is a natural reaction. Rioting has been around since the beginning of human civilization, and it's a reaction to see certain socioeconomic circumstances. People don't just riot because they want to, except for like when sports teams win stuff or whatever. But if it's a social problem, it has to have come about in some sort of way that boiled over into rioting. And if you're the president and you have the power to fix said social problem, then you should do that instead of coming out and saying that these people are thugs and when the looting starts, the shooting starts. That's just my 2 cents. But let's continue the video.
I'm allowed to go to the park to play t-ball with my family, but I can destroy the park.
I can't go to the park to play t-ball with my family, but I can destroy the park. Again, there's a lot of questionable landmarks that she's talking about that I'm not sure have been destroyed. I don't know if anyone just went to I don't know if Black Lives Matter or protesters or rioters went to a park and just decide, hey, we're going to chop down that tree and destroy the park. I don't think that's happened. But no, yet again, the point that I keep reiterating, nobody told you that you couldn't do blank. Nobody said that you can't go to and play t-ball with your family at the park. You can. And if you feel that you can't do that because there are Black people in the area, then that's your problem. Yeah, I mean, see, here's my thing. It's not literal. It's an example. The example is terrible. And she sounds pretty literal when she's saying it. Nobody is saying that you cannot do X, Y, and Z. She feels as if she cannot do X, Y, and Z, even though she shouldn't. It's people are protesting. People are rioting. Nobody's destroying parks. You're just... The reason why, even if it's not literal and it's an example, the reason why it's still bad is because her entire arguments are based off of a perceived hypocrisy. But the argument falls apart when you look at each of her points and realize that there's no hypocrisy there. Nobody is saying white people can't do this. White people can't go and have a good time. White people can't go and play with their family or whatever, but they can go, but it's acceptable to destroy parks. if it was acceptable to destroy parks, then maybe she would have a point there. It's not acceptable to destroy anything. People who destroy stuff will still get pursued with the force of the law. Like it's not like cops are seeing people loot, riot, and burn. They're just like, oh, well, we're just gonna let them go. That's acceptable. No, even the liberal media has been staunch on calling out and in condemning rioters. They'll say the peaceful protesters are good, but a lot of them just say, oh, the rioting's too far and everything, which isn't helping either. But yeah, her examples are terrible in that she's basing them off of perceived hypocrisy that does not exist. And that hypocrisy perception stems from the fact that there's a very dominant victim mentality on the right that they choose to see as if everything is like against them when it's not. It's really not. No one's telling you can't do anything. Everyone is protesting police brutality and a bunch of other socioeconomic factors that led up to this point. Nobody is saying you personally can't do anything, which is why her arguments are stupid.
I'm not allowed to protect our historical monuments and history, but I can go tear them down and have them land on top of people.
I don't know if you heard the last bit of that because someone sent me a text, but she said, I'm not allowed to go protect our history and our monuments, but I'm allowed to tear them down and have them fall on top of people. Once again. Okay, first. Okay. Let me roll back and find out what I'm going to say. Okay. Firstly, not a single statue has ever landed on top of people, so I don't even know where she got that hyperbolic statement from. Secondly, you're protecting history. You're not protecting history. And the reason why is because I know some of you have seen this, or you guys have seen this. The common talking point, oh, if you erase these statues, you're erasing history. Except for that's not true whatsoever. You have never seen a Hitler statue. We all know who Hitler is and what he did. No matter what happens, if all the Confederate statues were removed tomorrow, they're not going to stop teaching about the Confederacy in books. So you saying that you're not allowed to go protect history, you're not protecting history. You're trying to stop a clearly racist and bigoted symbol from coming down because of, I don't know, because of your own beliefs. So you're not protecting history. And even then, nobody said you're not allowed to go and protest the taking down of Confederate statues. People will say you're a bad and immoral person if you do that, but you're still allowed to. That's your First Amendment right to protest. So again, victim mentality, no one is saying this. But on top of that, if you think that going out to protest because they said they're going to take down a Confederate statue is you protecting history, then that says a lot about you. Because this isn't protecting history. You're trying to preserve a history that will be taught about anyway, but that was it wasn't even commemorative to the rioters took down a Union statue. When did that happen? I'm going to need you to provide me with something on that because I don't know about that. But even then, there have been an uptick in Confederate statues and stuff coming down too. So, and even if they did take it down a Union statue, she's not talking about that. But what happened is, so when you say that you're protecting history or whatever, you're not. Like I said before, it's still going to get taught about whenever, it's still going to get taught about in history books and everything. So you're not protecting any history. You're trying to preserve a bigoted symbol from coming down. Now, what makes it even more hilarious is that there's a quote from Robert E. Lee saying that he didn't want people to put up these statues because he wants the nation to heal immediately after the Civil War, which is why a lot of these Confederate memorials and a lot of these Confederate monuments didn't go up in the immediate wake of the Civil War. They went up around the 1910s and 1920s, the heyday of the KKK. These were statues put up in order to tell Black people to know your place and know that you shouldn't be around here and know that any march at equality you try to have, you're going to be marching in the shadow of a Confederate soldier, someone who fought to keep you in bondage. That's what these statues commemorated. They went up first in the 1910s, then a second wave of them went up in the 1960s. I wonder what happened in the 1960s. So these are not, some historic stuff put up in 1870 to teach about the the Civil War. No, these are racist statues up to commemorate people who fought to enslave black people. So for you to think that going to protest and coming down is you protecting history, that's not protecting history. That's protecting racism, and that's perpetuating the cycle. When are you going to do more ASMR? I have another ASMR video coming soon. I think sometime this week. Okay, I'm gonna search up the thing about the Union statue immediately after we finish this video.
I'm allowed to have an opinion on racial matters because I'm white, but if I don't have an opinion on it, I'm the reason why people are oppressed.
So she says she's not allowed to have an opinion on racial issues because she's white, but if I don't have an opinion on it, I'm the reason why everyone's oppressed. Okay. One, yet again, for the 87th time, nobody told you couldn't do X, Y, Z. Nobody told you that you cannot have an opinion on racial issues because you're white, or that you couldn't have an opinion at all. Because, I don't know if you noticed, there's been a large amount of white people who have stood with Black Lives Matter and who have been out there protesting. So no one's saying this is like race war rhetoric. No one is saying that you cannot have an opinion on this because you're white, because white people have opinions on it. Humans have opinions on it. No one is persecuting you for having an opinion on it. Then when she says, but if I don't, I'm the reason why everyone's oppressed. You're not the reason why everyone's oppressed. The reason why black people are oppressed is because of systematic racism and slavery. That's the reason why you are part of the issue, and that you are staying silent. But even then, which a lot of people will say that if you're staying silent about it, then you're part of the problem. Even then, like sometimes I'm reluctant to even grant that point, because I believe that you don't really know someone's individual motivations for something and for what they do. So for you to say that if you are silent about it, then you're by default part of the problem, I don't like to necessarily assume that, because you don't know. People might just not be comfortable or well versed in talking about race relations. So it's not that you're default part of the problem if you don't speak out against it. It's that it depends on what you're doing, right? If you are a conservative or a Republican or whatever, or if you support that type of stuff and you're like very insensitive towards the movement, then I can see why people say you're part of the problem. But just simply not talking about it, I don't know if I'm necessarily immediately willing to grant you that you're part of the problem, even though a lot of people are. So that points out the window too. The media basically did what? You're gonna have to enunciate what you mean by that. But let's continue. I think, yeah, we're almost done.
I can go riot in the streets with the BLM, but if I go to a Trump rally, COVID-19 magically appears.
This is funny. You can go rally in the streets with BLM, but if you go to a Trump rally, COVID-19 magically appears. I don't know if you're aware of this. COVID-19 didn't vanish just because Black Lives Matter happened. Black Lives Matters, like the protests and stuff, still were happening, and coronavirus was still a thing. But that was a risk that many people were willing to take in order to protest for what's right. Now, with the Trump rally, I've heard many different things about what happened there. I don't know how you say it magically appears. Like it again, it never went away. And again, that's probably part of the reason why nobody went. But I don't know why you're salty about that. COVID-19 magically appears. I don't know why you're salty about that. Like, just because like less than 10,000 people went to his rally doesn't mean anything. But I've heard a number of reasons. I've heard that coronavirus might be partially responsible. I've heard that a bunch of BTS fans bought like a bunch of tickets, because BTS fans are really crazy. But I've heard it, and then I've heard that there's probably just a general like denunciation of Trump that's happening right now. But even then, there's no reason why you should be upset about it. Coronavirus never disappeared. It's just Black people are taking the risk because they're like, our lives are on the line. I don't care about this virus or whatever. I'm going to take the precautions to keep myself safe. But going out is obviously just a risk I'm willing to take. No one put coronavirus on pause and then decided to send it at you just when Trump decided to do a thing. Like, what? That's what I'm telling you. The victim mentality is so apparent. She can't accept that it's just that coronavirus is just there and people will decide what they do based on what happens. If half the stadium decided not to go to a Trump rally because they felt that they could get coronavirus, then that's just what they did. The Democrats or liberals or whoever didn't just throw coronavirus at Trump in particular just so he couldn't have a good rally one time. Stop it. And it's really fitting because I don't know if you guys know, the original rally day was supposed to be on Juneteenth in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa, Oklahoma was the site of the former Black Wall Street that everyone has been talking about. And then white supremacists came and they burned it down. It was basically a black city with a bunch of successful business people and everything. They came and they burned it down. So he was trying to have his rally, his Trump rally, his conservative ideology that leads to the oppression of black people in a notorious black site at which a mass murder occurred on Juneteenth, the celebration of black liberation. But Trump's not racist. Yeah, I think this is the end of the video.
Does anyone else not see the hypocrisy in all of this? I am done with your bullshit.
I don't see the hypocrisy in it at all because what you just said was bullshit. But yeah, she's talking about the media would talk about Trump's rally spreading coronavirus, but okay, well then obviously she hasn't. I hate CNN, MSNBC, all that, Fox News. I hate them all, but people in my family aren't as politically inclined as I am. So CNN was basically on my TV the whole time. Throughout this whole protest, the main story was Black Lives Matter protest. The secondary story that they kept going back to is, yo, coronavirus is still a thing. And they kept making references to saying how, like, these people are, it's obviously a massive risk for them to get coronavirus. And then they also talk about how it's funny how, like, a week ago we were just talking about coronavirus nonstop. And now something like this can just flip everything on its head. They were still talking about coronavirus constantly during Black Lives Matter protests, while airing feed of Black Lives Matter protests. But they don't look at that because they're trying to find anything to paint themselves as the victim. It's not that the media didn't talk about it with Black Lives Matter and then they decided to talk about it with Trump's rally. They talked about it with both. And second of all, the media talking about it doesn't influence people's decision to go. They started talking about coronavirus affecting the crowd size after the rally happened. Because how would they do it before? Because they have to see the crowd size at the rally to know whether or not, like, coronavirus affected it. Because if no one showed up, then they can infer maybe it's coronavirus or whatever. That they did that afterwards. They didn't do that in order to stop people from going. They did that afterwards. So again, it's victim mentality. It's trying to pick apart any little thing, no matter how incorrect it will be, to try to make yourself look like the victim, which is very, very weird. Because I get it's like a mental mechanism because they don't want to cope with the fact that their ideology is the thing that leads to the harm that is done to black people. Because why would they want to accept that? That's too much on their plate. So then they just try to go, well, actually, if you look at this, well, white people get killed more by police. Well, the media didn't talk about coronavirus when it came to Black Lives Matter, but they talked about it at Trump's protest to put him down. And I can't go and have fun with my family at the park, but it's allowed for them to destroy it. It's stupid. But basically we've picked apart every point that she's made in that video as being incredibly dumb. And that TikTok has 600,000 likes, which shows the state of the world right now. But yeah, 600,000 likes and 49 comments, and every single comment is good because she limited the amount of comments and deleted the ones that disagreed with her. So, great marketplace of ideas, great First Amendment, isn't it? I'm gonna look up your thing about the rioters tearing down the Union statue now. Statue. Protesters, yeah, okay. Protesters tear down statues of Union General Ulysses S. Grant. Now, the reason why that this happened is because there's been a movement. I don't know if you guys know who Sean King is, but he's like a black activist or whatever. They're talking about tearing down statues of anybody who ever owned slaves. Ulysses S. Grant did own slaves through his wife's estate. So they tore down him. He was talking about tearing down statues to Jefferson and Washington, which they did own slaves too. And I don't know if I necessarily I don't know if I necessarily support the tearing down of those 3 statues. And the reason why is because statues are meant to commemorate what the person stood for, right? Like, for example, Ulysses S. Grant, he stands for defeating the Confederacy and everything. And yes, he didn't even own slaves himself. He owned slaves to his wife's estate, which is still morally objectionable and terrible. But that's not what he's remembered for. Washington and Jefferson, founding fathers, first presidents, or whatever. Yes, terrible in the fact that they own slaves. Absolutely abhorrent. But again, that's not what they're remembered for. If you look into the dirty past of every historical figure, then you can find something worth tearing them down about. Someone like Christopher Columbus, genocidal maniac. That's objectable. Like, that's not me digging into their past to try to find something that they did wrong or doing something that he's not remembered for. He's remembered for the thing that he's remembered for is the stuff we got taught in kindergarten. Oh, 1492, sailed the ocean blue, discovered America. If you read facts, he didn't do any of those things. What he did do was genocide a bunch of people. So that's, of course, you take his statue down. General Robert E. Lee fought for the Confederacy, is remembered for fighting for the Confederacy, is remembered for trying to fight to preserve slavery. Okay, take a statue down. Even with General Grant, you can make it a case, okay, take a statue down. But if you follow the logic that they try to apply to Jefferson and Washington, which I can see the argument for taking them down, but if you try to follow that logic and say, okay, they were remembered for founding the country, but they did own slaves, so take them down, okay, then you have to apply that same logic to everyone else. MLK, remembered for fighting for Black freedom, Black liberation, and everything, fighting for civil rights. But he was an adulterer, and he had various affairs and various sexual assault stuff against him and everything. So then would you take him down? No, you wouldn't, obviously, because that's not what he's remembered for. Gandhi was a rapist, like a serial rapist. He talks about making very weird stuff, like making underage girls sleep with him naked to resist his own urges and stuff. And he was a extreme racist. He didn't see Black people on the same. He didn't see Indians and because when he was in South Africa, he didn't care about Black people. What he wanted to do was take Indians and move them from the category that they shared with Black people into the category that they share with white people. He didn't want to abolish the whole system of hierarchy. He just wanted to change Indians from being perceived as Black to being perceived as white. That's incredibly racist. But would you take down a statue of Gandhi? Probably not. You like jazz. I don't really like jazz. I don't really listen to jazz. But yeah. So if you're gonna tear down statues based on secondary things in people's past, then I would agree to tear down all those statues. But if you're gonna look at it and be like, what are they remembered for? And that's why the statue was put up, then go on ahead and do it. There's a difference between tearing down statues to Jefferson and Lincoln, not Jefferson. There's a difference between tearing down statues to Jefferson and Grant and Washington when they're remembered for the things that they're remembered for, and they weren't put up as a racially hatred symbol from people in the South, because these Confederate statues, like I said before, were put up in the heyday of the KKK and in the 1960s from people in the South to tell Black people to know your place. That's why they were put up. They weren't put up as memorials. But the Jefferson, Grant, Washington statues are put up as memorials to what they stood for. I mean, to what they stood for and what they were remembered for. And same thing with the MLK statues and the Gandhi statue. They're put up as memorials to them to put on display what they stood for. Confederate statues were put up in the heyday of the KKK in the 1960s as a threat to Black people. There's a difference. That's why one should be taken down and the other one probably shouldn't, but you can have arguments about it. But yeah. So yeah, they did tear down Ulysses S. Grant statue. I can sympathize and understand why they did that. However, I wouldn't make the argument that it's okay to then tear down every single statue of people who did something wrong, because you have to look at the circumstances at which the statue was commemorated, and you have to look at what that person actually stood for, what that person's remembered for. So, yeah. What else did I say? I'm gonna go on this thing, see what else I said I was gonna. Oh yeah, Black Lives Matter. Obviously, I am in that Let this guy do a TED talk. Hey, I would happily do a TED talk. That would be incredibly nerve-wracking, but I'd happily do a TED talk. But I really gotta fix that thumbnail, man. It looks terrible. But so okay, conservatives. I'm not gonna talk about all these conservative. Why did my mailbox just open? So, but I'm not gonna talk about all conservatives and everything because that's gonna take a lot of time. I said I was gonna talk about conservatives, Black Lives Matter, race, politics. I mean, no, race and police. Yeah, no. Speaking of the whole conservative thing, I've been seeing a lot of because y'all know. Oh, what up? No, I didn't even pick that was you that left that comment. But I noticed a lot of people they'll talk about it's become more popular. I don't know if you've seen on social media. It's become a lot more popular to be conservative because a lot of the bigger like media faces and stuff are conservatives. So it's become a lot more popular to do that, and I guess like a lot more funny to be smugly wrong about stuff. But like when you get your information from people like Charlie Kirk and Dave Rubin and Steven Crowder and Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens, it's very easy to listen to them and be like, oh, that makes sense, and then just go along with what they're saying and just think that they're right about everything because you trust that they did the research for you. It's a lot harder to disprove what they say because it's very easy to say something stupid. It's very hard to prove why it's stupid. You're so close to 1K. Yes, sir. Noah, thank you, fam. And what up, Alan? But yeah, it's very easy to say something stupid. It's very hard to prove why that thing is stupid. So that's why it's become more popular to be conservative, which yeah, I've heard many argument. I was just live on Instagram the other day. And my friend Durson tells me that there are people at my school who genuinely believe that like white privilege isn't a thing, but good choice privilege is a thing. Gary history books. Oh, so you're a white supremacist. It might do this kid some good to read a history book. What history fact? What facts have I? What have I been demonstrably wrong about? Tell me, please tell me. Because it seems like it's your side that's to engage in the rewriting of history in order to prove your points that don't make sense. Oh my god, this man just literally dropped in and said white lives matter. Imagine. You wanna know what's funny? Like whiteness is like for you to say that white lives matter. For you to say white lives matter, you know that's like inherently exclusionary, right? That's not just like sticking up for your that's just inherently being exclusionary. Because the moment white people mix with anything else other than white, they're not considered white. Barack Obama was half black, half white. No one calls him the first. No one calls him another white president. They call him the first black president. So it's not. It's inherently exclusionary for you to promote white lives matter. Black lives matter equals hate. That's funny, bud. That's funny, but I think for you to say white lives matter, I think that's hate. Yeah. And the Gansi, I don't know how to pronounce your name, but it's ironic, right? You said okay, chill to the dude who was like going crazy or whatever. It's funny because you were providing a lot of arguments to me and stuff, and that see, all lives matter, and white lives matter are directly connected. So your ideology that you were perpetuating in this leads ultimately to that ideology of white lives matter. You might not see it, but your ideology puts people on a fast track to that stuff. And when you see it, you might be like, whoa, that's extreme. But it's ironic for you to say that as you're perpetuating stuff that leads to that. So, yeah, all lives matter and white lives matter are both terrible and openly racist statements. So, and I already explained why that is earlier in this live stream. But, yeah. Moving on, we're gonna go to Black Lives Matter. So yes, I 100% support Black Lives Matter, no brainer. Because Black Lives Matter, I think your life matters the same as Trump's. Yeah, so does everyone else, except for people who obviously don't like Trump and want him to die. I don't want Trump to like get assassinated, but he is an objectively evil person. But anyway, that's beyond the point. Black Lives Matter is not saying that. What up, Jalen? Black Lives Matter is not saying that Black Lives Matter more than anyone else's or more than white people, because that's what you guys seem to think. Black Lives Matter is literally saying Black Lives Matter just as much as anyone else. So it's saying what you just said. But the media and stuff, that the media sources that you get your information from, wants you to think that black people are just saying, oh, Black Lives Matter more than everyone else's, and we're just not caring about anyone else's life. Of course, everyone's lives matter. But if a house is on fire in a neighborhood, are you going to spray every single house with water, or are you going to put out the fire? That's the thing. There's a specific set of socioeconomic circumstances that are detrimental to black people. So when we say Black Lives Matter, we're fighting against that stuff. We're not saying that we matter more than anyone else. So whoever told you that is stupid. Thanks, Alan. Thank you, fam. But yeah, so it's not a, oh, well, black, it's not a black against white thing. A lot of conservatives are trying to turn this into a race war. It's not a Black Lives Matter. No, all lives matter. No, that's just, oh my God. And then White Lives Matter is on another one. I think dude left now, but Jesus Christ. But yeah, like I was saying, moving on to Black Lives Matter. Of course, I support Black Lives Matter to the fullest extent. It's for those very reasons. Put a Band-Aid on the leg that's bleeding, not the exactly. Like, what? That seems so self-explanatory to me, but conservatives are very good at making things that are self-explanatory and taking them and saying stupid stuff about them. So exactly. So when you want to get, if you're getting like shot or whatever, if you're like, you got shot in the arm, you're gonna tend to that arm. It doesn't mean that you care about that arm more than you care about the other one. It's just saying that this one is in trouble right now, so I got to do something about that right now. Like, what? And then on top of that, for people to insist that Black Lives Matter is like inherently damaging to white people, and it's like only saying Black Lives Matter. Black people have been at a disadvantage since this country's founding. So Black Lives Matter being a social movement in order to achieve equality, so black people are brought up to the ability to compete at a reasonable level with white people. That's not saying that we're just care about black people only. It's the upward force pushing to here. But a lot of white people and a lot of conservatives believe we're already here. So any social movement to promote black people, they feel it's going like this and weighing the scales against them. When in reality, all data and all objective analysis points to black people being here, white people being here, and any social movement is trying to push to here. Like, it's just a victim mentality. And I keep stressing this over and over again because it's not based in reality. It's not based in facts. That you can't, that's not two same. So then you believe in Black Lives Matter, right? Because Black Lives Matter are also saying all lives matter. Black Lives Matter aren't saying that Black Lives Matter and all lives don't. The reason why people have such a problem with all lives matter is because when you use that term, you're most likely using it in a direct response to Black Lives Matter, which is you're trying to minimize that. When someone says Black Lives Matter, you're trying to say all lives matter. You're trying to minimize it and say, well, no, what about everybody? That's like bringing back to a house analogy. If someone says my house is on fire, someone helped put that fire out, and you're saying, wait a minute, all houses matter. Okay, but is your house on fire? Like, yes, we get it. All houses matter, but my house is the one on fire, so therefore I need someone to help my house. That's what it's saying. It's not saying that well, if my house is burning to the ground and I say someone help my house, and they say, oh well, all houses matter. If I say no, my house matters because it's the one that's burning, I'm not saying that your house doesn't matter. I'm saying that my house is the one that needs the help right now. So let's go. If black people were being genocided and killed and shot in the streets because they were white and everything, or for any reason for that matter, we would be saying white lives matter. But that's not how the country has been built, and that's not how society ends up when you have one race that has been dominant in the country and another race that is trying to catch up. Everyone wants to be exact. Like it's weird. It's really weird. It's weird to me that the ideology that led to segregation then has a bunch of people that want to be included in a black movement so bad that they're willing to take the name of it and go all lives matter in order to obfuscate from the fact that we just need to focus on black people right now. That is baffling to me. Conservative Black Lives Matter. So yeah, my stance on Black Lives Matter is it's perfectly fine. I openly support it proudly, and we're gonna keep fighting. Now, race is what I was gonna talk about. A lot of people seem to feel as if there is no, like, as if there's no racial element in the United States. I've been hearing for the past few weeks since this whole George Floyd thing started. Various people try to debate me saying, oh, well, it's not racism. It's based on your culture. And, well, black people commit more crime, so that's why they get killed more. And, well, white people actually get killed more by police. And, oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. I hope no one comes in here trying to debate that, because that's not a debate that you'll win. And, it's not a matter of whether or not, oh, well, black people commit more crime. A lot of people will say that. There's a stat that people throw out called 1350, which is the classic thing that you hear white supremacists and Trump supporters say, well, black people are 13% of the population, but they commit 50% of the crime. Well, if you control for certain factors, that number is deceptive and outdated. But even if that was 100% accurate, these people only throw that out as if to imply that there's something inherently wrong with black people. They don't throw it out as a, hey, black people are 13% of the population but committing 15% of the crime. Here's what we need to do to fix that problem. We need to invest in black communities. We need to invest in their educational system. We need to make... They don't do that. They just throw out, well, 1350. And then they just walk away as if they just shut down the debate or something without looking at the socioeconomic factors that led to this point. So that's why it's very, very deceptive and very, very wrong for people to say that. But I don't need to spend too much time about race, because if you don't think I'm correct on that one, well, I have an extensive document about race relations and various issues on my phone right now that I can pull up and complete with citations and different sources on why race plays a part, and racism is a thing, and institutional racism and systematic racism is a thing in this country. But we don't need to even spend too much time about that, because I'm assuming everyone knows that. I'd like to assume that. But now we can brush past that and just go straight to police. So the issue that I've been seeing amongst police is you have one set of people who are saying defund the police, obviously, and calling for police reform. And then you have one set of people who is focused on the whole all cops are bad thing and trying to look for anything to disprove that, while ignoring the fact that the police system has some serious reform that needs to happen. So, starting with all cops are bad, I already explained. I'm not going to go back to that. I explained it at the beginning of the stream. All cops are bad isn't, just to briefly summarize it, basically, all cops are bad isn't saying that every single cop is morally inferior or every single cop wants to kill people or whatever. It's just saying that there are cops in the police system that are racist and that are prejudiced and that will kill people and kill unarmed black people. Then the cops who stand by and let that happen and don't get those people out of the police force are also part of the problem. That's what all cops are bad means. Now, moving on to what I believe should be done about the police. I do believe in defund the police. Now, what defund the police means, it's not saying get rid of police, because that's what conservatives like to do. You'll see Tucker Carlson or Fox News lose their mind 24/7. Defund the police. They just want to turn America into a hellscape. No. What defund the police means is you need to take a certain percentage of that department's money. I say cut their funding in half depending on the city, not cut every single thing in half, but like places like New York, they spend $6 billion on their police. LA spends like $3.5 billion. They don't need that money. So cut their funding and use it to invest in people like social workers who are able to do the jobs that police are not supposed to be doing. If a person does a minor traffic infraction and there is no like history of them being violent or anything that could lead to any danger for anyone, why is there an armed cop there? As soon as a gun enters the situation, the likelihood of someone dying is drastically increased. So when I feel like whenever there's a situation where you don't need an armed cop there, don't put an armed cop there. So you take some of the police's budget, use it for social workers, because cops shouldn't be there to stop people from committing suicide because they're very bad at that. Someone is already having dark thoughts, thinking that they're going to kill themselves, and your response is to show up with sirens blaring and guns around. That's not a great response. You need to have social workers that are trained in talking people down from that. Why are there cops there to deal with poor people on the street? That shouldn't be a thing. Yeah, so basically in any situation that you don't need an armed police officer, don't use an armed police officer. Take their funding and fund people who are actually equipped to do that job. And broken windows policing, which broken windows policing is when police departments will patrol and monitor an area before anything happens. So common sense tells you, oh yeah, they're just doing that just to get ahead of the crime, so they're already there. What happens is it creates a bad sense amongst people in that community, and the crime rate goes up because when you have more cops constantly patrolling an area where people didn't do anything wrong, the minor slip-ups are going to get caught, and then that's going to reflect in the crime stats. So say that there was people who would like easily jaywalk or people who would smoke weed or whatever and easily get away with it and everything. The moment you put more police there, those stuff are going to, even though it's technically illegal, even though you probably shouldn't really care too much about it because you're infringing on people's like personal lives or whatever. But even though it is technically illegal, now that you have more cops there, all those stuffs are going to get caught out. Then you're going to see the crime statistic goes up. Oh, the crime rate went up. Let's send more cops. Then it's a perpetuating cycle. So end broken windows policing. Make sure that there aren't cops just lurking around your neighborhood, even though the people haven't done anything wrong. Another thing is ending broken windows policing. What was another thing? Oh yeah, mandate that body cameras are always on. Under like even if you turn it off for any reason at all, you will face penalty by law. Make sure there's always an independent prosecutor that doesn't have like ties to the police department. Because a lot of the time when people get off for certain crimes in the police, it's because the prosecutor knows the people at the police department or the prosecutor is familiar with the police. So they're very lenient. You need to have an independent prosecutor to look at what happens in a given case and make sure people are like dealt with accordingly. I also support a purge of the police departments, which means that it doesn't mean killing people before you think that. But what that means is that by default, we have a very bad problem with the police department. The FBI has come out and made statements saying that white supremacists have infiltrated the police department. Like there's a broad like coalition of people who hold these beliefs or whatever that are now becoming police officers. And that's a very bad problem. And then what happens is when those people act out in their rage and stuff and kill like unarmed black people or kill people without needing it, there is no like check on them because that you could lose your job if you speak out against it if you're not a cop. So I think you purge the police departments in firing everyone with some complaints on their record, with those beliefs and stuff, with excessive violence and stuff. I don't care if you end up firing 80% of the police force. Hire them back. Not hire those same people back. Hire different people and put them through rigorous training so that these racial bias are excluded. Like, I don't care what you got to do. Get rid of them. Then I support a community or oversight. So any police unit in any given area has to answer to a council made up of people from that community. So if anything goes wrong, they're not going to get off scot-free because their union's there to protect them. No, you have to come in front of a trial of people from your community, just like the military. If the military is something comes out that they're doing something against like war crimes in the Middle East, they have to come to the Senate and they have to get a hearing. I think you should have to replicate that same thing, but on a community level with the police. So do that. And I think that's pretty much it. Oh, yeah, obviously more de-escalation training and everything. And, oh, yeah, demilitarization. They shouldn't have access to military-grade weaponry, and that's what that billions of dollars of funding goes towards. Yeah, I support a massive overhaul of the police system because it's what's needed. We've been delaying this problem for decades and decades and decades and decades because we haven't had the power to do anything about it. Now we have the power, and something needs to be done about it immediately. So, yeah. Anything else? Anyone want to ask me any questions? What I think on certain things? If not, I can try to think of one more thing to talk about. Then I'll wrap up. But yeah, for those of you who missed the thing where I was debunking the TikTok video, yeah, please watch that because it's very conservative people are very popular on TikTok, and it's very easy to say stuff that are stupid, like I said before. So,
When Donald Trump.
I found another one of her videos. She's about to say something very stupid again.
When Donald Trump wants a wall around our southern border, it's considered racist. But domestic terrorists who take over a 6x6 block in Washington is considered patriotic. Joe Biden is...
Hold on a second. Wait a minute. Okay. When Donald Trump wants a wall around the border, it's considered a racist, but domestic terrorists who take up a 6x6 block around in Washington, that's okay. Okay, first of all, I know what she's referring to. She's referring to the peaceful protesters that were outside of the White House, okay? They're peaceful protesters, so they're by definition not terrorists. What she thinks that they're Antifa, which is anti-fascist, which isn't even an organization. It's more of a movement of people who are anti-fascists, which are what the Nazis were. Nazis were fascists. So she thinks that they're Antifa, and she's labeling them as terrorists. And I'm making this inference based on the fact that Trump wanted to label Antifa as terrorists. So she's calling these peaceful protesters terrorists, okay, wrong, and wanting a wall on the southern border. Yeah, it's pretty racist, and you want to know why? Because all studies point to the fact that it wouldn't help curtail illegal immigration. Illegal immigration's at an all-time low. We aren't having some sort of epidemic at the border. And as we speak, Mexicans are getting put in concentration camps. Literally concentration camps. That's not an exaggeration. The Holocaust, what was it? Like, there was some organization based on, it's like a Holocaust type foundation or whatever. And they basically come to conclusions on whether or not stuff is or is not like concentration camps. They have determined that it is a concentration camp on the southern border. And news stories just broke out that they're starting to use gas in there, and it's causing respiratory infections. They aren't taking them to chambers and gassing them on the same scale as Jews, but they are using some sort of gas in there, and it's causing respiratory problems that are leading to people dying in these camps. So they are literal concentration camps. So not only did Trump want a wall that data proves would not have solved any problem and is just taking your tax dollars to fund his imaginary vanity project against some made-up crisis on the border. On top of that, his administration, on top of, and I'm not gonna excuse Obama's administration too. Obama's administration was guilty of putting kids in cages. There have been various pictures that came out that were from the Obama years that people just thought it was Trump when it wasn't. They were guilty. However, Trump's is massively worse in that Obama didn't round up people because they were brown and stick them in concentration camps. Trump's administration did, and then sent the military to the border. So it's not only that he wanted a wall which is racist because it wouldn't have solved anything, and you're just trying to stop Mexicans from coming in, which wouldn't have worked anyway. It's stupid. Then even if you want to argue that that's not racist, the racist part is what he proceeded to do to the Mexicans anyway. Like, what up, Marcos? The UN, like international law states that if you want to declare asylum, you must enter the borders of the country at which you want to declare asylum. So Mexicans have to cross the border illegally and then declare asylum at the nearest government office and then get put in the process and approved or denied. But Trump stopped them from doing that, i.e. rounding up everyone as soon as they cross the border and throwing them in camps. So he's not even allowing them to follow the UN described rules for declaring asylum. So we don't know who's just an illegal immigrant and who's trying to declare asylum because he's not letting anyone do anything. And now they're starting to gas people. So yes, he's very racist. And what his policy towards Mexico is very racist. So let's continue with this idiot.
Allowed to blackmail the president of Ukraine, but when Donald Trump asks about it, that's an impeachable offense.
Okay, so Joe Biden is able to blackmail the president of Ukraine. First, He didn't blackmail him. What he did, which I would argue is even worse because I despise Joe Biden to my core. And what he did was he had his son sit on the board of some electric or gas company in Ukraine, which he knew nothing about. And as the vice president's son, and this was when Joe Biden was vice president, he was collecting like $50K a month from this firm in Ukraine without any experience in the company. It's just for the simple fact that he was Joe Biden's son. That's corruption. That's flat out corruption. That is despicable. And the fact that every single time someone tries to ask Joe Biden about it, he gets all defensive and stuff, and the corporate Democrats try to defend him. Stupid. But what she's saying is, oh, Donald Trump simply asked about it, and that's impeachable? You cannot ask a foreign leader to do a favor for you and investigate your political opponents. That is illegal. Donald Trump literally, there is no quid pro quo. Donald Trump did ask the president of Ukraine to do him a favor and investigate Joe Biden, his political opponent. That's illegal. And the reason why he wasn't impeached on it is because the Senate is controlled by Republicans. And on top of that, I don't think that should have been the only thing they should have went after Trump for. Trump has done numerous impeachable offenses, violating the emoluments clause, which is when he was making money through his hotels in DC and everything. Committing or contributing to a genocide in Yemen. Like, if you really wanted to make it a case of impeachment, you have to point out everything he's done and made it and like acknowledge how bad it is. But they just decided to focus on Ukraine, so it went nowhere. So yeah, Trump didn't simply ask about it. He asked another president to investigate a political opponent, which is strictly forbidden. So it's funny how they have to bend and try to play these little word salad games in order to try to justify their preconceived notion that Donald Trump is some angel who done nothing wrong. Let's continue.
A $5 billion border wall is apparently too expensive, but a $1.5 trillion free healthcare system is apparently achievable.
Lord have mercy. I'm about to drop some facts on y'all real quick. Donald Trump's border wall was not $5 billion. Estimates range, it was either anything from $25 billion to $70 billion, even though he said, your leader said that he was going to get Mexico to pay for it. But then no, he shut down the government for over a month because he wanted America to pay for it, which means that you should be against this in your own right, because what did he promise you? We're going to build a wall, we're going to get Mexico to pay for it. He wanted you, your tax dollars, my tax dollars, all of our tax dollars to contribute to a $25 to $70 billion wall. That is just for them. Then you're not taking into account the amount of crew that you have to hire and the years of maintenance that you have to do to come after that. So that is going to run up a bill on something that's not even going to curtail illegal immigration. There you go. That's your wall. $1.5 trillion healthcare plan. Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All plan is $30 trillion over 10 years. Okay, that's that. Our current healthcare system is $50 trillion over the same amount of time. So it's a tax cut for me, you, everyone else, and we're getting free healthcare. Not even free healthcare. We're still paying for it via taxes. But the top 1% and the most wealthy people in this country will contribute way more to paying into that system than me and you will, because our taxes won't go up. Even if even if Bernie Sanders became president and hiked our taxes by 50% to pay for this, we'd still be saving money because of money that we're saving from not paying premiums, co-payments, and deductibles. So it's not some 1.5 trillion thing is other people. So your $5 billion wall was actually anywhere from 25 to 75 billion just to build, not including maintenance that you have to do over a numerous amount of years. Then the healthcare plan is paid for through taxes and costs less than our system and is trying to help you, but your Republican bias doesn't want to see that. So it's funny how people will argue against their own interests because a Medicare for All system is in the interest of all of us just because someone that they don't like said it. If Donald Trump proposed the same exact plan, they'd be like, oh, he's such a god. So, yeah, let's continue with your idiocracy.
People who never owned slaves have to pay reparations to people who never were slaves.
People who never owned slaves have to pay reparation to people who never were slaves. I don't know if she thinks that the idea of reparations is just me going up to Nancy down the street and telling her that that 5% of your taxes for the next 25 years have to go to me, but that's not what reparations is. Reparations, in the way I support it, is investing in Black communities, investing in their education, and making sure we provide enough materials and enough benefits to them so they can get on the same level as white people to compete, because Black people have never been allowed to compete on the same level as white people in the economy. So, therefore, you need to use the government to build up these communities. That's not paid for through your tax dollars. That's paid for through various cuts we can do to military spending, which we spend way too much on, to through taxes, but not on you. For the very wealthy people, the fact that Amazon paid 0 in federal income tax, stupid. So, yeah, you're not paying for reparations, and we're not asking you to take responsibility for stuff that your ancestors did. We're asking the government, who has been here the whole time, to facilitate the fact that Black people need to be able to compete on the same level as white people, because they haven't been able to. That's what we're asking for. We're not asking for people who were never slaves to pay reparations. Are you paying reparations to Marquise? Like, you paying reparations to me? No, you're not. So, yeah. It hasn't made a single valid point yet. But I have to get on here and do it, because I can't do this in a TikTok, because it's very easy to point out stupid hypocrisy and stuff on TikTok, and it's very hard to refute it, because nobody's going to watch a multi-part TikTok series on you refuting one video, because I can't fit all this into a minute, while she can just say, and I can do this, but you guys can't do that, but you guys can do this, but I can't do that. It's very easy to say something very stupid. It's very hard to prove that it's stupid.
I'm not allowed to cheat to get into college because I'll go to jail, but if I cheat to get into this country, I get free everything. People...
I'm not allowed to cheat to get into college because I'll go to jail, but if I cheat to get into this country, I get free everything. If you cheat to get into college, you cheated to get into college. You didn't cheat to get into the country if you came here illegally, because not only is there a high chance that you're going to be arrested, if you aren't arrested, you're probably not going to be able to participate in any government programs. That's why a lot of illegal immigrants aren't able to attend public schools, because you're illegal, and there's something about it being a government institution that may or may not deter you from being involved in it. So it's not that as soon as you cross the border, oh, now you just get everything. No, a lot of these people are escaping from dire situations in their country, and they're making an attempt to come here. And a lot of these people are trying to declare asylum, but when you have a President Trump in the White House, that's become impossible, because now you're just in a camp. You don't get free everything when you come here, because everything isn't free in the United States. If an illegal immigrant comes in and gets shot immediately and has to go to the hospital, they're going to have to pay $500,000 that they don't have. Not $500,000. That's hyperbole. But they're still going to have to pay a fortune that they probably don't have, seeing as they're an illegal immigrant who had to flee to a different country. Nothing is free in the United States. And if she's talking about Bernie Sanders' plan to say that people who are illegal immigrants would still get healthcare coverage, why is that an issue? What, so if an illegal immigrant comes over and they get shot, they just die in the street? Or you charge them money that they don't have? No, because it's the same thing with every other country that has universal healthcare. As soon as you're on their soil, you get taken care of. That's just the humane thing to do. But if you don't like brown people enough that you think that they should just die because they're brown and they didn't happen to not have the means or the time to wait to come here legally, because our immigration system is incredibly long and tedious, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. If you're going to equate someone escaping a dire situation and not having the time or resources needed to wait 20 plus years to get into a country to be able to make a minimum improvement in their life, and not only have that much of an improvement in their life, but really make a better life for their children that they may have, because their children will 100% be way better off being born and grown up in America than they would coming over to America from whatever country they're from. So if you think that that's equivalent to you cheating to get into college when you're already white and you are more likely to be accepted into college than I am, I don't know what to tell you. That's not the point. It's the second point. Yeah, no, I've addressed both now. Yeah, those things are not comparable. Cheating to get into college and coming over illegally when There are various, like, I'm pretty sure there aren't people who are going to die if they don't cheat to get into college. College is a great help. College is a great help. And I can understand the need to want to cheat to get into college because you want to get an education enough to make a better life for yourself. But to conflate that with people who may or may not be escaping a dire situation back home to be able to make minimal improvement in their life so that their child can have a better life in a different country, it's not the same thing. What's up? It's your Chicago, man. Chicago, yes, sir. I just realized this whole time I've been wearing a Canada shirt talking about American issues. I'm partially Canadian, but I'm not from Canada. I'm from Chicago. Let's continue, see what else stupid stuff she has to say.
People who never went to college have to pay for kids who made stupid choices and decided to go to college.
I'm going to have to play the video over and hear what she said there, because I didn't even catch what she said.
We're catching and releasing criminals because apparently it's an infringement on their right. I'm not allowed to purchase a firearm, but you're totally allowed to go purchase drugs, alcohol.
There she is with the perceived hypocrisy again. Nobody is, yeah, you just joined, yeah. Nobody, there you go with the perceived hypocrisy again. No one ever told anyone that they cannot go buy a firearm. No one also ever told anyone that they can go buy drugs. You can go buy alcohol, and somehow we treat that as okay, but we don't treat drugs as, like, if someone has I don't understand how alcohol is so addictive and it F's up people's life in the same way that most drugs do, but we treat that as okay, but we don't treat drugs as okay. But no one said that it's just okay, you can just go willy-nilly buy drugs, but you can't go buy firearms, because all her arguments are based off of a victim mentality, perceived hypocrisy that doesn't exist. That's what all her arguments are based off of. So even if it's just hyperbole, even if it's just an example, she's trying to point out a hypocrisy that isn't there. But she sees it that way because she wants to see it that way, even though all objective facts point to the contrary.
And get an abortion. Irish and German scientists and engineers.
What, did she just say that I can't buy a firearm, but you can buy alcohol, drugs, and get an abortion? What do you mean? Oh my God, y'all don't want me to go off on abortion though. Y'all don't want to hear that.
Have to go through a very serious vetting process before being admitted into the United States, but immigrants from our southern border get to come in whenever they want.
Did she just say that English and German engineers have to go through a serious vetting process before coming into the U.S., but immigrants get to come in whenever they want? If immigrants got to come in whenever they want, then people wouldn't be in cages on the southern border. If immigrants got to come in whatever they want, they wouldn't go to jail. If immigrants got to come in whatever they want, your preferred presidential candidate wouldn't, like, if they just got to come in whenever they want, then your preferred presidential candidate wouldn't be sending the military down there. It's illegal that they come in, but at the same time, these people are fleeing certain circumstances that may be life or death for them, so that's the only choice that they're left to make. And when they make that choice, we need to be able to provide them with a way to become a citizen. And if it proves that they're a criminal or something, then you deport them. And you don't allow them to become a citizen. But if you're just starting off from a place of inferring that all these people must be bad and all these people are bringing drugs and crap, then you're not helping the problem and you're just a serial rapist. Racist. Now, I want to go back to one of the points that she said because I didn't catch it.
Southern border, it's considered racist. But domestic terrorists who take over a 6x6 block in Washington is considered patriotic.
Wrong.
Joe Biden is allowed to blackmail the president of Ukraine, but when Donald Trump asks about it, that's an impeachable offense.
Wrong.
A $5 billion border wall is apparently too expensive, but a $1.5 trillion free healthcare system is apparently achievable. People who never owned slaves have to pay reparations to people who never were slaves. I'm not allowed to cheat to get into college because I'll go to jail, but if I cheat to get into this country, I get free everything. People who never went to college have to pay for kids who made stupid choices and decided to go to college.
Wait, people who never went to college have to pay for people who made stupid decisions and decided to go to college? What? Did she say that backwards? Is she trying to say that people who went to college have to... Yeah, she's trying to say that backwards. People who went to college have to pay for people who made stupid decisions and didn't go to college? you do realize that not everyone decides not to go to college, right? You know, there's a thing called tuition, and if your family can't afford tuition, then you don't get to go to college. No matter how smart you are, most of the time it's not a choice. No, not most. I'll grant a lot of the time people choose not to go to. But even then, because you chose not to go to something that you're gonna leave with thousands of dollars in debt because minimum wage hasn't moved since the past like 20, 30 years, but college tuition keeps rising up, making the decision that you don't want to put yourself in financial debt over getting an education doesn't mean that you need to then live the worst subsistent life and no one should ever pay taxes to do anything that contributes to you. And barring the fact that not going to college doesn't guarantee you're going to end up on food stamps or something. It's not a, that's so stupid. That's so stupid. It's so stupid that she couldn't even say the point correctly. She said it backwards. What's the next point that she said that was stupid?
We're catching and releasing criminals because apparently it's an infringement on their right. I'm not allowed to purchase a
Did she just say we're catching and releasing criminals? We're catching and releasing criminals because it's an infringement on their rights? Is she talking about the border? Because if she's talking about the border, then you don't know if they're criminals. Because just because they came across the border illegally doesn't mean that they're criminals, because the UN states that you must enter the border of the country that you're looking to declare asylum in. So if they're declaring asylum, if they're asylum seekers, they are not criminals, they're asylum seekers, and you need to treat them as such. But the United States government is treating them as criminals and throwing them in cages. So they're not criminals, and they're not being released, obviously, because they're being held in camps. But even if they are being released, yes, that's because that's an infringement on their rights. Because their right is to enter the country in which they want to declare asylum and then declare it. But if you're impeding their right to do so by arresting them, then you're impeding their rights and they need to be released. That is common sense. She's just stupid. I think she's high, lol. She's drunk. She's been in the house drinking it. Yep, she's been drinking that Kool-Aid, bro. She's been drinking that Kool-Aid. And that's enough. I've had about enough of her because she, oh my God. She is the epitome of, she did a video on socialism and democratic socialism. I'm not even going to touch that video because I'm going to lose my mind. But if you guys stuck around for this entire stream, thank you very much. We are so close to 1K. Or about 20 something away. I hope you guys enjoyed my take on these issues and me debunking these idiots that don't know what they're talking about. But yeah, if you guys did if you guys did enjoy, please leave a like, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff. Share this video around, clip some stuff out of it that I talked about, share it around and stuff. I want to get the word out about these issues that people think that they're right on, but they're really wrong on. When are you doing your next video? My next video, what is today? Wednesday. It should be up in the next 4 days. Because my recording schedule is very awkward because I have various stuff that I have to do. So look forward to that video. It'll probably be an ASMR video. That depends on whether or not we hit 1,000. I still don't know what I'm gonna do for 1,000. So let me know what I should do. But yeah. Thank you guys for watching this. Love y'all. Peace. Have an awesome day. Now, I did my intro backwards. See, I can't edit this part out because I usually do it good, but then I mess up and then I have to edit it out. But whatever. Have an awesome day, night, wherever you guys are, and peace.